I should have been crying tears of joy. That's what every father imagines, right? The moment when your child comes into the world, when you hear that first tiny cry, when you look at your partner and feel like everything you've endured together was worth it. That's what I was expecting, but instead, I was standing there, numb, as a nurse gently touched my arm and asked me to step aside. I thought maybe something was wrong with the baby. My heart was pounding, my chest tight, and 1,000 prayers rushed through my mind. But the look in her eyes wasn't the look of someone delivering news about a medical emergency. It was different, so careful, so hesitant, like she was about to hand me a truth I could never put back down once I heard it. She leaned in close, so my wife wouldn't hear over the chaos of doctors and the newborn's cries. Her voice was soft, but every syllable hit me like a hammer. In that moment, the sterile smell of the hospital faded. The shouts of congratulations became a cruel background noise. All I could see was my wife, exhausted, smiling faintly, as if nothing was wrong. But deep down, I knew the ground beneath me was about to give way. But when the nurse leaned closer and said, "Sir, I need to tell you something about your baby," my knees nearly buckled. I had no idea my wife's darkest secret was about to come out in the cruelest way possible. Pregnancy was supposed to be the time that brought us closer. I had pictured myself holding her hand through cravings and mood swings, rubbing her back when she was tired, building the crib together while we laughed about baby names. That's the dream I carried in my head. But the reality, it was nothing like that. Almost from the start, something felt off. She guarded her phone like it was a lifeline. If it buzzed, she'd rush to grab it before I could even glance at the screen. I wasn't the type to snoop, but the way she tilted the screen away from me, the way entire message threads disappeared overnight, it gnawed at me. When I asked her about it, she'd sigh dramatically and say, "Do you really want to stress me out when I'm carrying your baby?" That one line shut me down every time. How could I argue with that? The moodiness wasn't just hormonal, at least not all of it. She snapped at me constantly. If I suggested a doctor's appointment together, she'd roll her eyes and say I was hovering. If I offered to cook, she'd find a way to mock it in front of her friends. I'll never forget the night we went to dinner with her family. I proudly mentioned I'd been saving money to set aside for the baby's future, and she laughed and said, "Don't act like you're some big provider. I could support this baby without you." The room went quiet. I swallowed the embarrassment like a bitter pill, pretending it didn't cut me to the bone. But the cracks deepened. The timeline of the pregnancy didn't quite make sense. Her due date was earlier than I expected, and when I gently brought it up, she exploded. "What are you saying? That I don't know when I got pregnant?" The way she flipped it around, suddenly I was the villain, the paranoid husband who dared to question her purity. And idiot that I was, back down. Every single time. That was her weapon, gaslighting. If I pointed out she'd been gone late, she'd spin it until I felt guilty. If I caught her hiding her phone, she'd cry and say I was invading her privacy. And if none of that worked, she wielded the ultimate shield, the baby. "You're stressing me out. You're stressing the baby. Do you want something to happen because of your paranoia?" Those words tied my hands. What man wants to feel like he's endangering his own child? So I stayed silent. I convinced myself it was just stress, hormones, pressure. I told myself every couple struggles during pregnancy. But deep down, my gut screamed at me. Something wasn't right. Then came the moment that burned into my memory forever. The night before she went into labor, I woke up to the glow of her phone lighting the room. She was lying next to me, texting furiously at 2 in the morning. My chest tightened. I asked, gently, "Who are you texting?" She didn't even hesitate. She locked eyes with me, anger flashing, and snapped, "Do you not trust the mother of your child?" I stayed silent, but that silence was the biggest mistake of my life. The morning she went into labor, I was running on a mix of nerves and hope. I rushed her to the hospital, gripping the steering wheel with white knuckles, telling myself this was it, the start of our new life. Whatever doubts I had, whatever cracks in the foundation, I buried them deep. Today wasn't about suspicion. Today was about becoming a father. Hours dragged on in the delivery room. I held her hand through contractions, whispered encouragement, wiped the sweat from her forehead. When the baby finally came, the room filled with noise, the cries of new life, the congratulations of nurses, the hum of monitors. My heart should have been soaring. But the moment I saw the baby, something twisted in my chest. I couldn't explain it, just something felt off. A disconnect, like my instincts were rejecting what my eyes were seeing. I tried to shake it off, tried to force a smile as they cleaned the baby and wrapped him in a blanket. That's when the nurse touched my arm and quietly asked me to step aside. Her words hit harder than any punch I've ever taken. "Sir, the baby's blood type doesn't match yours." At first, I didn't process it. My brain scrambled for excuses. Maybe there was a mistake. Maybe I misunderstood. But the way she looked at me, with pity, with certainty, told me this wasn't a mistake. It was science. Cold, undeniable truth. The child couldn't be mine. My legs felt weak. The walls seemed to close in, the steady beeping of machines turning into a deafening echo. Rage, grief, humiliation, they all collided inside me at once. I wasn't just losing the dream of fatherhood. I was realizing in real time that the woman I loved, the woman I defended against every doubt, had been lying to me for months. I stumbled back into the room, my face pale. She smiled faintly, cradling the baby like nothing was wrong. I stared at her, searching her eyes for honesty. Finally, I asked, voice trembling, "Whose baby is this?" Her smile faltered. Panic flashed across her face, followed by tears. She shook her head, whispering, "Please, don't do this now." Not here, but I pressed. I needed the truth, no matter how much it gutted me. After minutes of denial, the dam broke. She sobbed, admitting there had been someone else, a coworker. A mistake, she called it. Like cheating during our marriage and carrying another man's child into our home was a slip of the tongue. And then came the dagger. Through her tears, she begged, "But I still want you to raise the baby. You're my husband. You're the only father he'll ever know." I felt sick. She wanted me to shoulder the weight of her betrayal, to play house while she buried the truth. When I recoiled, she flipped it on me. "You're heartless," she snapped. "You'd abandon me at my weakest moment? You'd abandon an innocent child." Her voice rose, accusing, blaming, painting me as the villain for not embracing her affair's aftermath. The woman who had shattered our vows now stood there, weaponizing guilt, daring to tell me I was cruel for refusing to be her cover-up. I couldn't take it. The walls shook with our shouting, her pleas clashing with my rage. Every word out of her mouth twisted the knife deeper. And just when I thought she couldn't say anything worse, she clutched the baby tighter, her eyes burning into mine. And then she looked me dead in the eye, clutching that baby, and whispered words that still haunt me to this day. "He'll never know his real father, unless you tell him." I walked out of that hospital in a daze, my feet carrying me but my mind refusing to catch up. The world outside was still spinning, people going about their lives, laughing, honking horns, sipping coffee, but for me, everything had stopped. I had entered that building as a husband and soon-to-be father. I left it feeling like a stranger in my own skin. When the news spread among family, the reactions came fast and brutal. My parents were devastated. My mother cried, saying she'd felt something was wrong but never wanted to believe it. My father, usually calm and collected, clenched his fists and said through gritted teeth, "That woman spat on your loyalty. You deserve better than this." Her parents, though, they tried to smooth it over. Her mother hugged me tightly and whispered, "She just made a mistake. Don't throw away your marriage over this." A mistake, that's what they called it. As if betrayal, lies, and dragging me through 9 months of deception was on the same level as forgetting to pick up milk on the way home. Her father wouldn't meet my eyes, just muttered something about working it out for the baby. But my friends, they didn't mince words. They looked me straight in the eye and told me what I needed to hear. "You need to walk away. She'll only drag you down further. If she could do this once, she'll do it again." One of them even said, "She's not crying because she's sorry, man. She's crying because she got caught." And in the back of my mind, I could already hear the voices of strangers who would one day read this story on Reddit. Classic gaslighting move. She only confessed because she had no choice. Bro, you dodged a bullet, run. Funny how people you've never met can see the truth more clearly than the ones you love. Their outrage gave me strength. It reminded me that I wasn't crazy, I wasn't paranoid, I wasn't cruel for refusing to play along with her lie. I was betrayed, plain and simple, and no amount of guilt-tripping or manipulation could erase that truth. But betrayal has a way of lingering, of clawing back when you think you've finally stepped free. And just when I thought the worst was behind me, she showed up at my door with the baby in her arms, begging me to sign the birth certificate. When she stood at my door, the baby in her arms, begging me to sign that birth certificate, I felt the weight of every decision I had ever made pressing down on me. For years, I had chosen loyalty, sacrifice, and faith over my own instincts. But in that moment, I finally chose myself. I looked her in the eyes and told her no. I would not be trapped in a lie. Not for her. Not for the baby. Not for anyone. The days that followed were some of the hardest of my life. Filing for divorce felt like admitting defeat, like burying the future I once dreamed of. But as the paperwork went through and the reality settled in, I realized it wasn't defeat at all. It was freedom. For the first time in years, I wasn't walking on eggshells, waiting for the next excuse, the next manipulation, the next late-night text she swore meant nothing. I focused on rebuilding piece by piece. Therapy, long talks with friends, even quiet evenings alone where I learned to sit with the silence instead of fearing it. I set boundaries I should have drawn long ago, and slowly, I began to feel something I thought I had lost forever: peace. The biggest lesson? Loyalty means nothing if it's not mutual. Blind faith doesn't make you noble. It makes you vulnerable to people who see your love as weakness. And I refused to ever let my love be used as a weapon against me again. Walking away wasn't easy, but staying would have destroyed me. And to anyone listening who's doubting their worth, remember, love built on lies isn't love at all. It's just another prison. Don't be afraid to walk out and lock the door behind you. Before I take you deeper into that hospital room, I need you to understand something about me. I wasn't just some careless husband. I was the guy who gave everything to the woman I loved. Loyal to a fault, hardworking, the kind of man who believed that when you stand before family and friends and make vows, you honor them with every breath. That was me. When we first met, she lit up every room she walked into. She wasn't just beautiful, she was magnetic. The girl everyone wanted to sit next to, the one whose laugh could cut through any silence. I couldn't believe she chose me. I still remember the way she looked at me on our first date, like I was the only person in the world who mattered. I fell hard, and I fell fast. From the start, I made it my mission to support her dreams. When she lost her job, I picked up extra hours so she wouldn't have to worry. When she decided to go back to school, I cooked, cleaned, paid the bills, cheered her on through every exam. I thought that was what love meant: sacrifice without keeping score. But even in those early days, there were cracks I ignored. A late-night text she laughed off as just a friend. Nights when she claimed she was out with classmates but came home hours later, smelling like perfume that wasn't hers. I saw it, I felt it, but I told myself I was imagining things. I told myself trust mattered more than doubt. Looking back, I realize I buried my instincts because I wanted so badly to believe in her. I believed love was stronger than suspicion. I believed marriage meant standing firm, even when the ground shook beneath me. Looking back, the signs were there all along, but I convinced myself she loved me too much to ever betray me. I didn't know it yet, but that blind faith was about to destroy me.